So the idea behind this photo illustration is to show stress, and to show it in a way that has the subject or the person in the image breaking into pieces. So what we're going to do to get started is we have the photograph of our subject, a dark background, and I'm actually going to copy the layer with the subject photo on it. I'll get to that later. Next, what we'll do is we'll bring in our texture. What I have here is just a picture of dry, cracked earth. And to get that into our working file, I'll use the Move tool here. Click and drag up to the top to our working file, and then release. Now I want to make sure I get it in the right spot and that the cracks are sort of showing in the right places. And once I'm done with that, I'll move the opacity back up to 100%. So the idea is to use this texture as a layer mask. And so what we'll do first is to remove the color from the image by either hitting Control-Shift-U on the keyboard, or by going up to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate. So after my image has been desaturated, I want to boost the contrast in it. So I'll bring up the Levels dialog and really give myself some really good contrast. Try to get rid of as much of those midtones as I can. So what I'm going to do now that I have my cracked earth image looking a lot like a layer mask is I'm going to select the whole thing by either clicking on Select and select All, or Control A on the keyboard. And I want this to be a layer mask, and I want that layer mask to affect the top copy of my subject. So with that top copy of the subject selected, I'm going to click on the Add Layer Mask icon at the bottom of the Layers palette so that we have a new layer mask. And then what I'll do is, if you hold down Alt on the keyboard and click on that layer mask, you can work just on that layer mask. So you can paint it in black and white, but what we're going to do is to take what we just copied and we're going to paste it into the layer mask. So now, if I hold down Alt and click the layer mask again, we're back to our image. And for now, I'm going to get rid of the top copy with the cracked earth in it. And right now it doesn't really look like we've done anything, but if you hide the bottom subject layer, you'll see that we've gotten rid of all the pieces where the cracks are by using a layer mask on that top image. And the image below is just filling in the gaps right now. So what we'll do to really make these cracks stand out is first we will click on this layer mask here, and we're going to add effects to that layer mask. So what we'll do is come down to the FX button again, click on Bevel and Emboss, and you'll see the cracks start to have some depth to them. So we're going to boost the depth a little bit. Whoa. Boost the size, maybe not so much. We don't want them too soft. So now we're getting to where we want to be. But there are some things that I'm not happy about right now, and we'll take care of that. I'm not happy about these sort of dimples that are happening, and that's caused from the sort of the excess little grays that have been left over in our layer mask here. And what I can do then is to, with my paintbrush tool, and with white as my foreground color, I can come in and get rid of some of those little dimples that I don't want in there. Okay, so I've gotten rid of most of the dimples that I don't want in there, and I'm also going to get rid of the cracks from the eyes themselves, and also from inside the lips. So we're getting to just about where we want. And what I'm going to do too is I want to make the cracks look more like they are following the shape of her face. So what I'll do to achieve that is to click on the layer mask itself, that has the cracks on it. And I'll go to filter and to liquefy. And I'll be using the pucker tool here, and what I'll do is just wherever I think the cracks are gonna go in or start to follow the curve of, say, around her nose here, under her eye, her eyelid, under her nose. Those lines will go in there. Okay, so once we have that, now the idea is to have the woman look like she's cracking. The idea is to have the woman look like she's cracking and falling to pieces, not really the background. So what I'll do is, with that same white brush selected, I'll get rid of some of these cracks. I'll get a little bit closer, and I'll use a softer brush. And the idea is to make it look convincing and have them sort of fade off. Do that with a softer edge or with a lower opacity. So say with these down here, I can switch my opacity and sort of have them kind of fade in a little bit more so they look a little more realistic, especially under the chin and the shadows. We'll try to lessen those a little bit so it looks a little bit more realistic. Let's see over here. So anywhere in the shadows, you want to make sure that the cracks aren't too bright for where they are for being in the shadows. And the same thing underneath her eyelid here. These are going to be a little darker. So there we have, so far, the cracks. What I want to do now is, I want the background image, which is this image here, to have a little bit more of a difference in tone than the front image, because it's behind these pieces. So I want to make sure it's looking accurate. So I'm going to just bring up the levels. Just bring down the tone just a little bit. So next I'm going to work out some details. And what I want to do is I actually want to make her eyes a color. And the way that I'll do that is I'll come down to the bottom of the layers palette and click on the adjustment layer icon, come up to hue and saturation. And obviously this is black and white image. There's no color to really change, so I have to add color, and I'll do that by clicking colorize, finding the hue that I want. So I want sort of bright blue eyes, and then I'm going to boost the saturation. So now I have this blue layer. What I'll do is I'll invert this mask by hitting Control I on the keyboard. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want the blue to show up anywhere except where I tell it to. So right now the layer mask for that hue and saturation adjustment is all black. So I'm going to paint with white. And just in the eyes, and I want to make sure I leave just a little bit of that gray on the outside. I don't want it looking too fake. And then what I can do is I really want to add a little bit more depth to my pieces here. So my pieces are really on this layer here. That's really where my pieces are located. So what I'm going to do is I want this piece to be floating away a little bit. So the way that I'm going to do that is to duplicate the layer. So here's the duplicate, here is the original. Now on the duplicate, I want to get rid of everything but this piece right here. So I'll click on the layer mask and I'll paint with black everywhere but where I want it to show up. So everywhere but that little piece. Go right around the edge. It's kind of hard to see right now. So that's where we are. And now we're just going to move it. And it doesn't quite look convincing yet, so what we're going to do is click on the lower mask here, the lower image, And we're gonna do the same thing there, but here we're gonna delete that piece. You don't have to necessarily delete the whole thing, just where it's showing up. I'm just gonna clean up the edge a little here. And we're getting pretty close.